Well, guys, it's springtime here on the property, and it seems like springtime brings about all of our summer set of renovation projects. You know, they're things that we've brainstormed over the winter. They're things that we've been planning over the past couple of years, and you know, time just doesn't allow you to get everything done when you want to. So, what we're starting on is actually the next side of our home for doing the siding. I've already done a few of the sides, replacing windows and doors and things on those sides. We're coming around to the front side, so on the front of our home, we have kind of a brick facade that I'll point out. And one of the problems with it, I mean, the home's a half a century old, so over 50 years, you know, the water and stuff will kind of get behind the brick in some cases. And it, at that time in construction, in the 1970s, it seemed like this MDF type material was used as kind of an insulation material underneath your normal siding or your sheathing. And that MDF kind of just breaks down with water and with mice and things. So what we're going to be doing is taking off the brick facade. I'll show you kind of the deconstruction of it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to build up material with a couple layers of OSB to bring that to the original siding kind of depth so that everything's flush across the front. And then what we'll be doing is doing a house wrap on top of that and getting things ready to do our cement board siding. So I wanted to break apart some of the top bricks here so you guys could kind of see the construction of the wall. We have our brick facade. It only comes up about 36 inches. And then what I've got is this, I don't know the true name of it, but on the build sheets, it's kind of like an insulation board. It's almost got the consistency of like MDF, except like I said, over the years, it kind of breaks down with water. If mice get back here, bugs and things. So there are sections of this where it's kind of been eaten away and it's just a hole going to the insulation in the stud cavity. On top of that, though, I've got a 5/8 inch redwood material, and that's what the original siding of the house was. What I'm going to be doing, I'm going to take off this insulation board. I'm going to rip a line across here about 3 feet up from the foundation, or 4 feet, and then I'll take off both the insulation board and this lower section of the finish wall, and then I'll build that back up with OSB. So I'll have a 1/2 inch sheet of OSB and then a 5/8 inch thick sheet of OSB on top of that. And then what we'll do is we'll do something like what I've done already on this side of the home, where I put a tamlin wrap, a house wrap on top of this, and then that gets us ready to put the cement board siding back on top. I want to point out though, this tamlin wrap, you know, I picked it out specifically for this. You know, based on what I've been reading and everything, and what kind of caught my eye is that it's actually got this kind of dimpled silicon bead along it. And what it allows water to do is water can actually drain out the back behind the cement board. You don't want cement, you know, directly against your wood framing or anything, because you don't want it to hold moisture. And what this allows it to do is it acts almost like a rain screen and lets the water out through the bottom. So anyways, that's the plan. That's what we'll try to get under here. These bricks are coming off pretty easily. The mortar is, you know, fairly old. And to be honest, it's where the caulking and things are that keeps the brick stuck in place better than even the mortar is. So it should be a pretty quick and easy project, at least as time allows in the evenings after work. So, you know, as I got through doing this brick removal, I ended up having to put some of the tamlin wrap on a little bit prematurely, and that's just because it started to rain last night. So this is the next day. All of the brick is off of this wall, though. And I wanted to mention, you know, my rock pick, that rock hammer I had started with, had actually broken halfway through. One of the other methods, you know, is if you just have a driving spike, something with a flat edge, and then in my case, a 2-pound hammer. I just kind of came in, and you could really beat at kind of that interface where the mortar meets the brick. And when you do that, the mortar, in my case, was just popping off in pretty big chunks. So it was a pretty quick job. I did break out. I've got this Milwaukee rotary hammer, and it's one that I particularly selected. I have a lot of Tapcon work to do on another portion of the house, but I also bought this because it has a hammer only mode on it. It's not only a rotary hammer, but it's got a drill, rotary hammer, and then just hammer. So with a hammer, I can put something like this spade bit on there, and you can actually chisel at it. And that's actually what I'm going to do today. The last part of this kind of brick removal process is down here. This is my foundation where there's a 3.5-inch ledge, and that's where the brick was stacked up to kind of make that faux wall in front of my wood framing. So I'm just going to use that rotary hammer with the chisel to kind of bust up some of this mortar that's leaving an uneven surface on the bottom. And the reason for that is that I'm going to come in with some, it's actually valley, like roof valley trim coil type material. And I'm going to use that just to kind of pretty up this edge before I do my cement board framing on top, or my cement board siding on top of that. So, I'll get this underway. It's pretty quick and easy work with something like this. And not that I'm a huge Milwaukee fan in particular, but I did select this particular model, and that's because it had one of the higher like jewel ratings, I think it is. I'll have to double check, but it's actually got the most like oomph to each of the hits. I had a smaller Bosch rotary hammer for doing some of the TapCon stuff I had been doing previously, and that was one where you really had to work at it to get the bit to actually bite into the concrete. This one has got a much larger mass that is throwing around, so it really chisels on your behalf. It's also got some anti-vibration handle grip, so it's actually a pretty nice tool to use. And it's been making pretty quick work of this. So why don't I get that underway? So I just wanted to give a close-up of kind of a quick talk through of what we had gotten done. We got all the mortar off of this ledge, like I had shown earlier. I wasn't too worried about using the rotary hammer on this ledge because the concrete of the foundation is so much stronger than what the mortar is. And the mortar really just popped off like what you had seen. That rib that's on that lower ledge there, that's just what is from the foundation forms, I believe. It's not something caused by my spade bit in the rotary hammer. And then you can see the concrete goes up the wall about 8 inches or so before we actually get to the bottom plate of the walls. What I had done at the same time, just to give it myself a little bit easier spot to work over these next couple weeks, is I took out the edgers that were along the side of the sidewalk. And as you'd seen, they were probably top plates from a retaining wall, so a lot deeper than what I pictured. And then I just used the tractor to clean things up. So there's a lot more to this project. We've got front doors, siding, and everything in a front porch addition. Stay tuned for the next set in this series, and we'll get to work.